شهر عم نقول هذا كلام متطرف.
Hello and welcome to News Center. I'm Parikshit Luthra. Israel stepped up its offensive in Lebanon over the weekend, continuing their bombardment across the country. Israel struck central Beirut for the first time since 2006. 3 leaders of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine were killed. Hamas claimed that its top leader in Lebanon had been killed as well. So far, more than 100 people have been killed in the last 24 hours, taking the death toll to over 1,000 in 2 weeks. Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah has confirmed that its leader Syed Hassan Nasrallah, along with 20 other members, was killed in an Israeli airstrike over the weekend. The group has vowed to continue its war against Israel. In a statement, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that Israel has settled the score with Nasrallah's assassination in a Beirut airstrike. The Israeli Air Force has also targeted a power plant and seaport in the Yemeni port cities, killing at least 4 people. Meanwhile, reports have said that blasts were heard in Syria's capital, Damascus. As per the UN, around 1 lakh people have fled Lebanon since the latest escalation in the war. US President Joe Biden has said that a broader war in the Middle East has to be averted to prevent further escalation. Joining me now to take this forward is Faraz Saib, Deputy Chief of Mission at Israel Embassy in India. Thank you very much for joining us on the program, on our show News Center. Let me begin by asking you, how does the death of Hassan Nasrallah actually reduce Hezbollah's ability to carry out attacks against Israel?
I think that targeting the leader of a terror organization, not a militant group, a terror organization, it's something that contributes to the stabilization of the entire region. The question here is what the Lebanese state, the Lebanese army will do in the next step. This is actually what's important now. The keys are in the hand of the Lebanese state. If they step forward and take control in this gap that Hezbollah has left, they will take responsibility. They will apply their sovereignty on the ground. I think that we will see a de-escalation, a fast de-escalation of the situation. Of course, if Hezbollah will continue, as you said, will continue with firing missiles and threatening our civilians, of course, the situation might even go into a further escalations, and we don't want that. We want our more than 60,000 civilians go back to their homes in the north. We want that the terror organization will be pushed far away from our borders, and I really hope that this is where we are heading now.
Right. If we were to ask you, can we assume that Israel's operation against Hezbollah, considering that the Prime Minister of Israel has said that they have settled scores with the Hezbollah chief Nasrallah, now that he has said this, will the operation against Hezbollah in Lebanon continue?
As I said, it depends on it depends on 2 players. The first player is, as I said, is the Lebanese state, the Lebanese army. If the Lebanese army take control and take the borderline, and they will go to the border with Israel, and they will be responsible for the security and the safety of Lebanon, then there's no need for any further escalation or for any continuation of this campaign, of this war. The second player is Iran. The question is Iran going to be pressured by the international community to stop the escalation from their side? As we know, they still directing and financing the Houthis, Hezbollah, of course, Hamas, the militias in Iraq. So those are the 2 players that can de-escalate the situation. Israel will react to any aggression against our borders and against our civilians.
Right. We're just a week away from the first anniversary of the 7th October attack on Israel and its people, where more than 800 Israelis were killed. More than 250 were taken hostage as well, including foreigners. What kind of a message do we expect Prime Minister Netanyahu to deliver to the world, not just the people of Israel, but to the world ahead of that anniversary?
And the 7th of October was a huge tragedy. It's a trauma for the Israeli civilian, for the Israeli public. 800 civilians, that's right, but we're talking about more than 1,200 Israelis who were butchered and killed and raped, and of course more than 250 hostages. Don't forget that we still have more than 100 hostages held by Hamas in Gaza, 101 hostages, and we want them back. And I think that the message of the Israeli government, Prime Minister Netanyahu, is very clear. He said it in at the United Nations. First of all, we want our hostages back. This is the first thing. We want terror organizations to stop getting financed and directed by Iran and others. And I think that the future has two possibilities. And this is what Prime Minister Netanyahu said. There's the normalization and connectivity possibility. And this is what we want, connecting East and West via Israel, via the Gulf. Of course, India has a huge part in this. And the other option is the, let's call it, the axis of evil option. And this is Iran continue attacking Israel via Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and from the south via the Houthis in Yemen. We really hope that the first option will be the next step to stabilize the region of West Asia and, of course, connect East and West together.
Right. I would also like to ask you about the possibility of a ceasefire in Gaza. The U.S. is still hopeful that there is a room for negotiations. But many experts say with the attacks that have been carried out against the Hezbollah, against Hamas over the last 7 to 8 days, it seems that there is no place for negotiation anymore. How would you react to those reports?
Negotiation is always an option. The question, what is the first step? And the first step that we are demanding is our hostages back, our civilians back, our young and elderly and 2 kids, 2 babies that are still there, the Bibas family. We want them back. The moment that we know that they are back, there's a huge range of possibilities, negotiation, the rebuilding of Gaza, and talk about the day after, and normalization, and all those things will happen the moment that we will have our civilians hostages back, and the moment that we have our not only civilian hostages, of course, all the 101 hostages, we want them back, that we know that Hamas doesn't control Gaza anymore, that moderate leadership will control the Palestinian society, Palestinian community. We know that on our northern border, there won't be a terror organization that's controlling our country. And then we can, of course, discuss further options. We don't want to escalate the situation more than it is now. We want to go into some kind of stabilizing the entire region. But of course, as I said, the key is in the hands of the other side in this case. We for sure won't stop the campaign. We won't stop protecting our borders, our sovereignty, and of course, our people.
Right. According to different reports, Faraz Saib, Israel did not keep US in the loop when it carried out that attack on Hassan Nasrallah and other members of the Hezbollah. How would you react to those reports?
Well, our relation with the United States is very strong and it's very deep. It's not only strategic and it's not only shared values. It's even deeper than that. The connection is the good relation and connection is bipartisan. All parties in the United States appreciate Israel. We have a huge appreciation to the United States and it stands. Regarding Hezbollah, the message is very simple. Hezbollah has the blood of more than 350 Americans on its hands from terror attacks in Lebanon. It has the blood of French peacekeeping soldiers from the 80s attacks. It has the blood of Argentinians in the attacks in Buenos Aires in the 90s. It has the blood, of course, of many Israelis, if Syrians, of others. So there is an understanding between us and our friends, of course, the United States as our really main and most important ally, that fighting terrorism is not an option. It's not a negotiation. It's not something that we discuss. It's something that we all do. The same way that India fights terrorism, the same way that the United States fight terrorism, the same way that other sovereign countries fight terrorism that threaten their civilians, this is the same. So even if the operation itself wasn't discussed, I have no idea. I don't know what kind of real negotiations happened between Israeli officials and American officials. I know that those kind of things are not something that is really open to dialogue. It's something that we just do. We fight
Okay.
terrorism. We protect our civilians. It's very easy.
All right. All right, Faraz Saib, thank you so much for joining us on the program. That was the Deputy Chief of Mission of the Israeli Embassy in New Delhi, speaking to CNBC-TV18 on News Center on the attacks that were carried out on Hezbollah. And they have been called a decapitating move. Let's see what happens to the Hezbollah leadership and how Hezbollah, Iran and Iran's proxies attack and retaliate in the coming days. We're taking a short break on that note, but coming up on the other side, Iran condemns Israel's involvement in Hezbollah chief's Syed Hassan Nasrallah's death, adds Israel's act won't go unanswered. A special discussion with Middle East expert and former Indian ambassador Talmiz Ahmad when we're back.